Hello and welcome to this Motion 5 tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the intro that I showed you at the start, because that's what we're going to make. We're going to make a nice YouTube intro with a few transitions, a few keyframes and a few cameras and all that good stuff. I'm going to break it down into 3 parts, so I'll keep it in one video, but I'll break it down into 3 distinct parts just to make it easy for you to follow. Before we go on and get into the project, I have made in Pixelmator the YouTube logo, and I've split it into the 2 words, and I've also made, just for ease of use, a white vignette background. We could have done it in Motion, but I just made it in Pixelmator because it's easy to do. So I'll put those files, if you want them, if you don't want to make them yourself, I'll put those files, a link to them in the description below, so make sure you go and get those. So we're going to start off with a 30 frames per second, new Motion project, 30 frames per second, and we're going to do 12 seconds. Click open, and then right away we go to our canvas up here and we click the 100%, the button next to it, and click fit. So it just fits our canvas to our window nicely. Now when you've downloaded the files, if you go to file browser on the top left here, what I suggest you do is drag and drop them to your desktop before you open Motion, and then select the desktop folder and your 3 files will be here. The first one we're going to work with is the white PNG, the white background with a vignette, and you'll notice it's smaller than the canvas, so we're just going to use our anchor points and drag it out a little bit like this. Now you notice I've gone over the lines here, and that's because later on we'll probably add a sort of some camera motion, so it will just prevent any black parts around the actual rendered out footage itself. So the camera stays within the white bit. It shows you the white background, nothing else. So that's the background done. We're then going to import the word U, select it and import, and the word tube, select it and click import. Now we're going to go to our layers pane here. I'm going to select the word tube, press command, and then select the word U. So it selects them both, and then I'm going to resize it just with the anchor points, blue anchor point, and just resize the 2 words. And the reason I'm doing them together is so they stay in proportion to each other. Resize the 2 words the way I want them, and put them just off at the top of the screen and just off to the left, because I want my yeah, that's what I want it basically. So that's as simple as that is. That's really easy. We've imported these the words U and the words tube, and we will go about keyframing them a little bit later on. Now what I'm going to want to do, I'm going to want to work with a camera a little bit, but I'm also going to show you something with the background. If I select my white background and then go to inspector, go to properties within the inspector, you'll see that I've got here, I could hide these, I've got a few options, but not many things that I can do with this white background. However, if I add a camera, and the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to select project at the top here, I'm going to go to create a camera. So click create a camera. You'll get the option if you want to switch to 3D. Yes, I want to switch to 3D. And now when I select my white background after creating that camera and I select properties, I have a few more options: lighting, shadows, reflection, drop shadow, 4 corner, crop, media and timing. A few more options than I had before. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to use shadows on this. So I'm going to go to reflections on this. So I'm going to go to reflection, left click the little blue tab, and then click the show button here, and we will mess about more with the reflections in just a minute. Right, now this is a little bit tricky, so I'll go slow on this part for you. Now I'm going to select my camera. Now just imagine the screen that you're looking at. We're looking through, as we can see here, this active camera. So we're looking through the camera. As we are looking, that's what we would see if we look through the camera from the front. I want to look at the camera from the right. So I want to look at things from the right. Right, so here's our camera here. So if I go back to active camera, that's from the front. So now we're going to go from the right. So drop down and then click from the right. So there's our camera, and we're just going to use our mouse and scroll across to what our camera's looking at. And now this here, this yellow line, is our white background. But I don't want to mess about with the white background. What I want to do is get the tube, press command in my layers pane, and get the U words together, and I'm just going to drag them forward off our canvas. And you'll see in the bottom right hand corner here, that's where my active camera shows you a preview of what I'm doing. So what I want to do is get the reflection, just drag it forward enough to get the reflection. Once I'm happy, click the right camera and go back to active camera. Now you will see I'll get this sort of drop shadow type thing. So if I was to move this backwards or forwards, no, let me just command Z that. If I was to move this to the right, you will see just behind it here, there's a drop shadow. It's actually a reflection, right? So we're happy with that, and we've got our reflections on our white background working the way we want them to. So let's have a look. Have a look at the reflectivity and make it sort of 80%, 80.8%. You could just do it with a slide rule, just double click and type in 80.8%, press enter, and that will be 80.8. Now our blur amount, we want it to blur a little bit. So I've just got the blur on 17. Let's have a look at the fall off. Do we want the shadows to sort of fall off on the blur, or no, we'll leave them as they are. So we want to tick the fall off box in the reflection bit down here. Right. So now the last part we're going to do here is we're going to keyframe the words U and the word tube. Right. So we'll go with the U first. So I'm going to select the U. My inspector will still be active on the left hand pane there, and here under transform, under properties transform, we've got this position. So if I move, left click and move this position up and down, you see it moves the U. Likewise I can do it with this anchor points here, with this left arrow, up and down arrow, or whatever I want it to be. This blue arrow will move it backwards and forwards, but I want it to stay in line with the tube. So we're just going to move left or right. Now make sure my timeline's at the start. I'm then going to drag this left arrow and drag the word U off the screen. I'm then going to go to my position under transform position and click this little plus button to add a keyframe. So in my timeline it starts there. And I'm going to go up to 2 seconds, grab the red arrow and drag the word U onto the screen to a position I'm happy with. Cool. So if I go through my timeline, if I scrub through my timeline, click play, starts off and comes onto the screen. Now we're going to do the same with tube. So select the word tube in your layers pane. Remember the transform position is here. Go back to the start of my timeline. Grab the red arrow, drag it off the screen. Because it doesn't fit completely, I'm just going to change the fit size to 25% so I can get it completely off the screen. Click the little plus button on the transform position, go up to 2 seconds on my timeline, and then drag the word tube across to a position that I'm happy with. I'm happy with that. Select project at the top, get the timeline back to the start, and click play. So the words U and tube come in together nicely, nice and easy. However, I'm not happy that they come in right at the start. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag the keyframes of both of these out a little bit, up to 3 seconds, and then drag the start to just below a second. So then later on, when I export it, I can add a transition to the start without actually missing anything on the video. So I click play now, it doesn't start until I get there, and then the words come in together. Now if you want them to come in faster, just shorten these keyframes, like so. So if you want the words on the screen quicker, just shorten the keyframes. And they'll come in a little bit quicker. A little bit quicker. quicker still? Could we? So a little bit quicker still. So I'm just thinking noises there. It could go. Could do that. Yeah, let's do that. Could do that with noises. And we're going to hold it there for part 1 of this video. So we're sort of 10 minutes in already, and we've got quite far. So yeah, take a break and let's come back and do it again. Okay, so welcome to part 2. In part 2, we're going to add some text and do the same sort of motion of dragging it in like this. So I am going to simply select my group, select the text tool, and drag a place out for my text, and then I'm going to write what I want to do. Now you will notice my text, I'm going to split it into 2. So I would suggest you do the same if you want the same sort of effect. But before I do anything with the text, or before I start to keyframe the text or move the text, I'm just going to click F7 on my keyboard, or little heads-up display here, because I want to change the color. Click the white color swatch and change the color to black, and then close that. In my layers pane, make sure my 13th is selected. Right click and click duplicate. With a duplicate, double click it and type the next word that you want in. With that still selected, get your little red arrow and drag the second word to meet the first. Now, what you got to remember is this is flat on the canvas as we speak. So a few things we're going to want to do is select them both, so we edit them both at the same time, or move them both at the same time. And let's get them to the position that we want them. And this is sort of the position that I'm going to be happy with. Drag the blue arrow and drag them forward a little bit. So this looks quite nice, like this. I'm sure you'll agree with this little reflection of the text behind it. So now let's keyframe them, and we're going to do the same as we did with the U and the tube. We will start off with the word design. Go to properties, so design your layer page, go to properties. Remember, under transform and then position, we're going to drag our little red arrow off the screen. Again, we can't fit it off the screen, so go to 25% and drag it off the screen just so you can't see it anymore, and then click add on the position, add a keyframe. Right, we're happy with that. Drag up our timeline to sort of whatever region you want it to be, and then drag your text on. To the position that you're happy with, and that looks good. Let me just change the view so I can see that. Yes, that looks good. And then the same with the 13th. Go back to the start of the timeline. Transform a position, little red arrow, drag it off the screen like so. Can't see it, so let's go to 25% again. Click the add a keyframe, drag it up to 4 seconds where it meets the design, and boom, we're in. That looks good. And then let's go and fit that camera again. Scrub the timeline back to the start and click play, and let's see what's happening. Boom, boom. Okay, so we're happy with that, sort of. I want this 13th to come in a little bit quicker. So I want it to come in a little bit quicker. Boom, that's better. So we're happy with that. Now what we're going to want to do is leave it as it is up until 6 seconds. And then we're going to start messing about with the camera. So we'll go forward, we'll use camera, and we'll go forward in the camera, we'll zoom in the camera, but we'll do that in part 3. So yeah, have another break and we'll be back very soon. So hey, welcome to part 3, and on part 3 we're going to zoom our camera in and add that page curl to our U and tube. So we're let's get right into it. Up to sort of 5 seconds in our timeline editor, and yeah, let's select the tube logo, go to library, go to filters, then on the filters find P, get this page curl here, and drag and drop it into your layers pane on top of the tube. So let's have a look when it starts, right? So because we've keyframed it, nothing will happen, and then it'll start rolling off nice and slowly like so, which we're happy with. We're not going to mess about with the speed. You can mess about with the speed, so you can select page curl, go into inspector, and we can mess about with the radius on 20 at the moment. Look, we can, so it all messes about, but we just want it on 20. The fade out, we can mess with the fade out. We don't want it to fade out, we want it to stay strong, so we want that on 0. We don't want anything to do with the any of the shadows, and the direction needs to be on open. If it was on close, it would curl like this, curl up the way, but we want it to be on open. And you can change the angle of the curl out and all that good stuff, but we're happy with that, because when it gets to here and it started curling, by that stage we're going to have started zooming in anyway. So let's do the same with the U. Go to the U logo, go to library, filters, page curl should still be selected, drag and drop it onto the U. Now you notice on the U that drops off, so that folds off the same way as the tube, so it looks like it's one, but we don't. We want it to fall off separately. So the way we're going to do it is go to our inspector, go to fade out and turn that down right away. The radius, just drag it up to 28, just so it doesn't curl as much. And then with the U page curl selected, get this arrow and drag the center button down, and drag the arrow down also. Now hopefully we should get this fall off this way. Cool, so we're happy with that. So when the U starts falling here, that's about 9 seconds in our timeline. We're going to go to the camera, and then we are going to change our angle of view to right. So change our view to 25%, so we can see our camera, and with our camera selected, our position, we're going to keyframe it. So just click there to add a keyframe. I made the hard work, didn't I? And then when we get to 10 seconds here, 10.5 seconds, we want to move the camera in the way like this. Look at our view, so that's the view that we want, and that's what we want to have done. So now go back to it will keyframe itself, by the way. Go back to active camera, and let's just have a look at what happens with our camera when it happens. Click play, just drag it halfway back down the timeline, click play. We're happy with that. We could even start it, that camera movement, possibly a little bit sooner. Do we want it that slow? Yeah, we could have it that slow, I suppose. Not quite as slow, so just drag the keyframe down a little bit more. You see what I did there? I just dragged the end keyframe and manipulated it this way to the speed that we want it. And then final thing, I'm going to add a bit of see on the camera position here, on the transform camera position, I'm going to right click, and then I am going to add parameter. on that parameter, I'm going to add a wriggle. So now, all the way through our composition, now you notice what I said at the start, you'll start to see black lines around the outside if we add a wriggle. So with the wriggle in the behaviors tab, turn down the amount so it's only just 3 pixels, so then it just gives you the motion type effect as though it's sort of, you know, sort of sailing on the sea, but you never actually see any of the black edges around the outside, because we don't want any black edges around the outside. We just want a slight motion on our camera, like so. Really nice and easy and really simple, really simple effect to do. I'm just going to mess with these keyframes because I'm still not happy with, yeah, that's better. I just wasn't happy, the camera just seemed to be a long time before it was moving, so I just dragged this start keyframe down a little bit to manipulate it, and that's the end of our tutorial. So all you got to do now is add noise or add sounds. I've showed you how to add sounds in a previous video. I'll put a link to that video, how to add sounds. In fact, if you just go and look at my motion projects, it's the last intro that I did, part 2 of the last intro that I did. So hope this helps you out, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. Likewise, you can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if indeed you didn't like it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'll be back very soon. Catch you later.